Hey everybody, Aaron Rift here from NoDQ.com. I am being joined by Wade Needham and Mike Nagel. We are here to discuss the life and times of Roddy Piper, one of the biggest mainstream superstars in the history of the wrestling business. First off, Wade, how are you reacting to the news of Roddy Piper's death?
I'm in disbelief, as I always am when I, hear of these tragedies and the passings of these legends. It's hard to process, especially since the passing of Dusty just recently. It's just not even 2 months went by, and all of a sudden now another legend's gone. And Godspeed to Roddy Piper, man.
Yeah, it's only been a month and a half since the death of Dusty Rhodes, two of the biggest icons in the history of the business dying. Just a terrible year. I mean, what do you think about this, Mike?
Yeah, it's definitely shocking. You never expect it to happen when it does. But, I mean, if we look back, over the last few years, and I don't really want to sound like a dick, but it seems like Roddy was on borrowed time for a while. You know what I mean? Like, he got hit by that crazy stalker fan, and everybody thought he was going to die because he broke all those bones in his body. Came back from that. He had a bout with Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer, kicked its ass, and came back from that. But it just seems like he wasn't the same after the cancer. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. He just didn't seem like the same Roddy Piper. But, still very shocking.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he lived a very fast lifestyle, and he was very much like his television character. Roddy Piper was just in your face, and he was also a great family man as well. He had his wild side, and he had his family side. Just a great human being. Everyone loved Roddy Piper, both in and out of the ring. And let's talk about some of our favorite Roddy Piper moments. Of course, he first started off getting big in the territories, and he was part of the NWA for several years. He had that dog collar match with Greg Valentine, which is one of the all-time classic matches of the 1980s. And then he went to WWF in early '84, just as the national expansion was beginning, and he started the Piper's Pit segments, and everybody remembers the famous Piper's Pit moment when he hit Jimmy Snuka with the coconut. I want to ask you first, Wade, what are some of your favorite early Roddy Piper moments prior to the first WrestleMania?
I really don't have any, to be very honest, prior to the first WrestleMania, because I never really watched, in my later years, never really watched back at that time. Of course, at the time itself, didn't watch. I was only 1 year old when WrestleMania come around. So, but later, in the late '80s, some of my favorite Piper moments, if I had to pick one, would WrestleMania 5, I believe it was, when he had the half black all over his whole body. When he
I think it's WrestleMania 6 you're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's 6.
5 was what's his name? The flamboyant, I can't remember his name.
Robert Downey Jr.?
No, it wasn't Robert
Downey Jr.
Morton Downey Jr.
Yeah.
I mix up their names.
For that, it was Adrian Adonis.
Adrian Adonis, yeah, that's the name. That was 5 too, right?
That was WrestleMania 3.
Yeah.
Was it 3?
Yeah.
And then he retired for a couple years.
Okay.
Mike, you want to share any of your favorite early Roddy Piper memories?
Absolutely. I mean, there was a story going around when Vince Sr. actually hired him when Roddy was getting white hot in the NWA. He was a pretty boy baby face and playing the bagpipes out to the ring and everything. And the guys in the WWF did not care for him. And he made his debut at Madison Square Garden, and he was going to play the bagpipes, and they wouldn't play because they ribbed him really bad. They put paper, in Piper's pipes.
They put paper in Piper's pipes.
Yeah, try saying that 3 times fast. But yeah, so they ribbed him really bad. Vince Sr. basically let him go. Piper went back to the NWA. The Portland territory is where he's, most notably made his name. And you can't say enough about the stuff Piper did. I mean, Hogan never beat him. In the WWF. Nobody else can say that.
Yeah, and I have to say that he also made an impact in California too. My dad told me that he used to go to the Grand Olympic Auditorium in Los Angeles back in the late '70s, and he got major heel heat with the Spanish fans. I mean, he really knew how to be a great heel way back then
His
in the
feud with
late
Chavo
'70s.
Classic and
Yes.
all those people. So
Yeah, and this was back when wrestling was not politically correct, and he went out there and he said whatever it took to get the people just wanting to kill the guy. He talked about all the times the fans tried to stab him and throw things at him. It was a different era back then, and Piper was a master at getting heel heat back in those days. But then moving on, he got into WWE. He did Piper's Pit, and then of course the Rock and wrestling era. Roddy Piper was the top heel when professional wrestling and WWE really took off in popularity. You had Hogan and Piper, the War to Settle the Score, the special that drew a massive television rating.
yet it didn't settle the score at all.
Well, that would continue later on in WCW. You had WrestleMania with Hogan and Mr. T teaming up against Roddy Piper and Mr. Wonderful, and that really kicked off the Rock and Wrestling era. And of course, the stuff with Roddy Piper and Cyndi Lauper. So many memorable moments, and when he smashed the gold record over the head of Captain Lou Albano and MSG, that was another classic moment. And then Roddy Piper went on to have a boxing match with Mr. T at the second WrestleMania. That was, and then he turned babyface towards the end of '86. I mean, he was really over with the fans. He was one of those bad guys that was a cool bad guy. You hated him, but he was a guy you loved to hate. And it was only a matter of time before he turned babyface. And he eventually decided to step away from wrestling. As we mentioned earlier, the match at WrestleMania 3 with Adrian Adonis. He took time off to do movies. He did They Live with John Carpenter, the famous line, "I came here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, but I'm all out of bubblegum." And then he went back to WWE for WrestleMania 5, as Wade mentioned, and then he made several more appearances, WrestleMania 6, and then he started doing commentary. So, he transitioned from doing the wrestling to doing the commentary. And any other moments you guys want to share? I'll start with you, Wade, from the early '90s regarding Roddy Piper, and then some of your favorite moments with him.
Yeah, I remember when Piper came back as the referee in the match at the King of the Ring. I believe it was the Kiss My Foot match, right, with Brett and Lawler.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was cool too. I mean, what perfect guy to have as a special ref, and he was a special ref at WrestleMania 10. Was that the year before or the same year?
That was '94.
94, yeah, 94 was WrestleMania 10. The King of the Ring match was '95, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect guy for those roles. He had the periodic appearances. Almost having like the one-off every year. 94, the 95, the 96. We saw the thing with Goldust, which is just a classic right there. The Hollywood Backlot Brawl, like that was.
Although the ending was kind of weird for a PG era WWF.
Very much indeed, but you know what? At the same time, that whole entire thing was very ahead of its time, especially with what was to come a year and a half later. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, it planted the seeds. And just like Roddy Piper, his whole career could be summed up with he was ahead of his time. At every single moment of his career, he was ahead of his time.
Yeah, I mean, his promos influenced so many people, considered to be one of the best. I mean, he's right up there with The Rock and Ric Flair when you look at the top guys in terms of promos. And one thing notable about him is he never did win the world title. He won the IC title in '92 from the Mountie and lost it to Brett at WrestleMania 8. That was a tremendous match. And
he was the U.S. champion in the NWA before that.
Yes, and then he won it again later in WCW, but he never did win the big one. He came close, and we'll get to that in a minute here. I just wanted to mention how awesome the WrestleMania 8 match was with Bret Hart.
Thanks for stealing my thing, Aaron.
Well, go ahead. You wanna talk about that real quick?
Well, I mean, the whole build-up to it was actually great. I think Bret was in the midst of a new contract signing, and so the Mountie beat him. They threw Piper in with the Mountie at the Royal Rumble. He went ahead and won the IC title clean from the Mountie. They put Piper in that great Royal Rumble match where the winner for the first time ever would be the undisputed WWF champion. And him and Flair went at it for a while. Unfortunately, Piper didn't win both titles that night. But it led into a great feud with Bret Hart, where we saw matches with Roddy Piper, with people like Shawn Michaels, Rick the Model Martel, just great people of that time to work with. And, Shawn was still really young, and they had great matches and great chemistry. But the match with Bret was great because you didn't know if Piper was going to be turning heel again or not. He went for the ring bell, was going to hit Bret, and then the crowd was starting to boo, and he didn't do it. And it's one of the notable times where Roddy Piper lost clean. I think, if not the only time where Roddy Piper lost clean in a WWE ring.
Yeah, he was very careful about protecting himself, and he did not do jobs to people. And the fact that he put over Bret, I mean, that really said a lot right there. How high he felt about Bret as a performer. That was pretty awesome.
That match was off the chart too. You can't forget about that. People don't really recognize Piper as being a solid in-ring worker. Just mostly they just remember him for what he said, because he was so good on the mic. But if you go back and look at his matches from the heyday, I mean, he was making Hogan look really good. He made, it wasn't so much he made Bret Hart look good. They both made each other look so much more amazing.
Yeah. Let's talk about WCW. Piper came into WCW, and he confronted Hulk Hogan to settle the score that was never settled back in the 80s. Wade, what are some of your favorite Piper moments from the WCW era?
Well, when I think of Roddy Piper and WCW, the first thing that comes to my mind was that segment on Nitro where they exposed his hip replacement.
Oh yeah, at the what was it, World War III, I believe it was.
Yeah, it was supposed to be right before their Starrcade match, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they set that up, and I just remember at the time thinking, why would they do something like that? You know what I mean? There's no need for that. But thinking back now and knowing what I know now about the business and how it works and whatnot, it was genius at the time. It really was.
I love that angle. That was a tremendous angle to build up Starrcade.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Starrcade match, I mean, it is what it is. It was two older guys in there, but it was all about the star power, and I love that whole feud. I mean, Hogan was at the top of his game as a heel, and Piper, he was very sympathetic. You really loved the guy and wanted him to succeed. And I thought it was really cool that he did get to beat Hogan with the sleeper at Starrcade, even though the title was not on the line.
And when they revisited that whole thing with Hogan and Piper and WCW, it was a lot better when WCW revisited Hogan and Warrior later on. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
They got the better of the two with that one.
I honestly like how the roles were reversed with Piper and Hogan in WCW, though. I thought that made it a lot cooler and more interesting and put a different spin on it also.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And then, of course, Piper did make his comeback to the WWE in 2003, had the brief feud with Hogan again as Mr. America, and then he got inducted in 2005. And unfortunately, I was not there for that, but, that was a great moment for Piper.
But, Aaron, we were there for WrestleMania 21 when Piper's Pit went live with Stone Cold Steve Austin.
That was a lot of fun to see Austin and Piper in the ring together at the same time. I mean, that was really cool, no doubt.
I was there at the Hall of Fame that year too, and Piper got one hell of a reception when they had him come out for his induction.
So yeah, you were there for that Hall of Fame. So I mean, that was definitely one of the more memorable speeches I think in Hall of Fame history. Would you agree with that?
Without a doubt, man. I don't think there was a dry eye in that building when Roddy Piper was giving his speech and talking about the old stories, when he was in his heyday and whatnot.
What about when Iron Sheik gave his speech? Was there a dry eye in the house for that?
Only because there was so much laughter, there was not a dry eye in that.
I break that Hollywood blonde jabroni's leg for Mr. Bernganya in Minnesota.
Hey, a lot of people don't realize this, and I hate to go off topic about the Piper thing, but, in regards to Iron Sheik, nobody wants to realize this, but I'm going to bring it up right now. The three of us, okay, at that time, before the advent of YouTube, we brought that shit out of Iron Sheik in the public, didn't we? He called, on my show, remember, not everyone else's show, he called Hogan a jabroni, but on my show, he called him a Hollywood blonde can't even repeat it anymore. Otherwise, I'd go into Hogan territory right now. But you know what I mean, brother?
I think we know what you mean. It rhymes with maggot. Let's just put it that way.
But I mean, the thing that, getting back to Piper, that's really sad. You know, all these legends getting inducted in 2005, and the Gibson Amphitheater isn't even there anymore. They tore it down for some piece of shit Harry Potter attraction, which is garbage. And
Don't say that to Jeff Meacham.
The Harry Potter shit replacing the Gibson Amphitheater is garbage. And, you know, it's just sad because I don't know if anybody's been to like Universal Studios, but they always have to tear down rides and attractions because they can't really build out the way the park is set up on the hillside. So they have to get rid of stuff to put in new stuff. So it's just sad that that venue is not there anymore. You know, very historic as far as, Hall of Fame. You know, you had Hogan, Piper, Iron Sheik, Jimmy Hart, I believe Paul Orndorff, all of them.
The WrestleMania 1 alumni.
Yeah, pretty much, and it's just it's so sad that that venue's not there anymore. But you know, we all have the WWE Network, well, except for me, where you can go back and relive those memories for $9.99 a month.
And there's the cheap plug. So yeah, Piper will be remembered for helping wrestling in a sense of making it more popular than it had ever been before, and just launching WWE into the mainstream. And
well, not only that, one of my best friends, you guys may know of him, Mondo Vega, King of the Streets. He's a worker down here in SoCal. I think he put it best on Twitter. I can't mention or think of a heel in pro wrestling from, like, say, the 70s on that probably didn't borrow something from Roddy Piper in their careers.
Absolutely.
And then when we get back to Piper, you know, getting rehired to WWE, excuse me, after the whole HBO debacle, Piper and Ric Flair won the World Tag Team titles.
Yeah, they did.
That's when Piper got diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and Rated RKO basically beat the shit out of him with a chair and won the titles back. But you know, it's cool to see Piper actually, in his golden years, winning the title and getting more recognition from WWE. You know, something that didn't happen during his heyday because, like I said, all he had was that Intercontinental title run. And, you know, I thought that was something that was really cool. And, you know, Piper would make the sporadic appearances, like on the old school, I think the last old school Raw where the Shield came out, and they had a really good segment, and then Jake Roberts came out. And, you know, Piper was still very good on the microphone even up until, you know, his passing today, which was really sad. So. And
he was even on Legends House, and he was entertaining on that show too. I mean, he was one of the highlights of that show.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for being on to discuss Roddy Piper. Wade, your site is ringscoops.com, and also you'll be coming back soon with more videos on the No DQ channel. Am I correct in that?
You are absolutely correct. I have no summer obstacles in my way anymore, and I look forward to presenting some more media for you guys.
Yeah, and if you guys didn't hear, Wade got an A in his fucking math class, so you better not dislike his shit.
Oh, hey, guess what, man? Last day of class, my teacher said that he has the highest average that he's ever taught in 50 years. We had an 86% average in that class, so yeah.
Yeah, so the trolls are just jealous of you because you can add and multiply and divide, and they can't.
Hey, I'm one class away from calculus. Yeah, Kimo.
And probably 90% of the haters don't even know basic.
And they're probably going to hate me more now because of that, right?
Yeah, they only know Scott Steiner math.
It seems like most of them only know Scott Steiner English too.
Oh. Anyways. Send your feedback to Ultimo Nagel on Twitter, and visit NoahMania.com to see Mike Nagel and Noah Donish on the scoop. And of course, they're on the No DQ channel as well. So eat, sleep, dislike, repeat, and of course.
Hey, Aaron, since I'm on here with you, and I don't mean to disrespect Piper or anything, but when are we getting our shirt on Pro Wrestling Tees for the scoop?
Well, I think we're going to have to set something up pretty soon because it seems like it's really catching fire.
It is catching fire. There's a lot of people who want a I Dislike Noah Donish t-shirt.
Well, then maybe we'll have to make it happen. Just stay tuned for that. And thank you guys for being on. And to everybody out there, leave a comment. leave your thoughts about Roddy Piper, what your favorite matches and memories were, and your favorite promos, your favorite Piper's Pit segments. Leave your feedback.
I got an autographed shirt that is not for sale. That's probably getting framed and mounted now, and yeah, so I'm glad I got this. I got Aaron one for his wedding, so Aaron has one of these as well, and it's going to be really hard to get these now.
And you have that figure, too. You showed me that figure before we started recording.
Yeah, I have the entrance grate. It's still mint condition, brand new in the box, and the batteries
Nice.
still work.
That's awesome. So on that note, we'll wrap this up, and thank you guys for watching. And stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest in the world of WWE. Thanks for watching, guys.